Hello, dear friends. Before we begin, I need to be honest with you. I'm going through a difficult time. YouTube demonetized my channel, and I'm worried about the future of this work I love so much. But I won't give up on you. That's why I created a page on Buy Me a Coffee. You can help with donations, any amount, or a monthly subscription that gives you access to exclusive videos. If a subscription doesn't fit your budget, don't worry. Any support means the world to me. The link is in the description. Now, let's get to today's story. The scent of stale beer and grease clung to my uniform like a second skin. I pressed my palm against the small of my back, trying to ease the constant ache that had become my companion over these past 4 months. The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a harsh, unforgiving glow that made my exhaustion visible in every reflective surface. Catherine, booth 7 needs clearing, and the coffee station's running low again. Margaret's voice cut through the din of clattering dishes and the old jukebox playing something from the 70s. Our manager had the kind of perpetual frown that suggested she'd been disappointed by life so many times she'd stopped expecting anything different. I nodded, grabbing a tray and moving toward the back corner booth. My sensible shoes, the only pair I owned without holes, squeaked against the checkered linoleum. The diner smelled like it always did. Burnt coffee, hash browns, and the faint underlying odor of industrial cleaner that never quite masked the decades of grease embedded in every surface. 4 months. 4 months since I'd walked away from silk sheets and penthouse views. Since I'd traded designer clothes for this polyester uniform with my name stitched crookedly above the breast pocket. 4 months since I'd discovered the truth about what Patrick Sullivan really did for a living, and 4 months since I'd discovered I was carrying his child. My hand moved instinctively to my abdomen, a protective gesture I couldn't seem to stop. The secret growing there was still small enough to hide beneath the loose cut of my uniform, but not for much longer. Soon, questions would come. Questions I couldn't answer without unraveling the carefully constructed fiction of my new life. "Kat, you okay?" Jessica appeared beside me, her own tray balanced on one hip. She was the only person here who'd shown me any real kindness, though even she didn't know the whole truth. Nobody did. "Just tired," I said, forcing a smile. "Long shift." "You've been saying that for weeks." Her eyes held concern, but also the kind of exhaustion that came from working 2 jobs while raising a kid alone. She didn't have energy to spare worrying about me. Margaret's in one of her moods, VIP reservation coming in tonight, some big shot who apparently owns half the buildings downtown. The tray in my hands wobbled. I steadied it, willing my fingers not to shake. Big shots who owned buildings downtown were exactly the kind of people I'd been avoiding. The kind of people who moved in Patrick's circles. "What time?" I heard myself ask. 8, private section. Jessica nodded toward the roped-off area we usually only used for the occasional birthday party. She's been stressed about it all day, wants everything perfect. I glanced at the clock. 7:45. My shift ended at 8. I could finish clearing these tables, clock out, and be gone before whoever it was arrived. The thought calmed the flutter of panic in my chest. Except Margaret had other ideas. "Catherine," her voice cracked across the diner like a whip. "I need you to stay late. Jessica's got to pick up her daughter, and Amanda called in sick. Again." The last word dripped with disgust. "You'll be covering the VIP section." The words hit me like cold water. "Margaret, Time and a half," she said, as if that solved everything, as if the extra money was worth any risk. And the terrible thing was, she was right. I needed every dollar I could scrape together. The baby wouldn't wait for me to find better employment, wouldn't care that I'd fled from luxury into poverty to escape a man who turned out to be far more dangerous than I'd ever imagined. "Okay," I whispered. The next 15 minutes passed in a blur of mechanical movements. I cleared tables, refilled coffee cups, smiled at customers who didn't see me as anything more than part of the scenery. Through the window, I watched expensive cars glide past, their sleek bodies reflecting the neon signs of neighboring businesses. At exactly 8 o'clock, a black town car pulled up outside. My breath caught. It wasn't the kind of car you saw in this neighborhood. Too clean, too new, too expensive. The driver emerged first. A tall man in a dark suit who scanned the street with the kind of awareness that spoke of professional training. Security. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stepped back from the window, pressing myself against the counter as if I could somehow become invisible. But Margaret was already at my elbow, smoothing down her own uniform, her expression transformed into something resembling pleasantness. "Come on, don't just stand there, this is important." I followed her to the roped-off section, my legs moving on autopilot while my mind screamed at me to run. The private area was separated from the main diner by frosted glass panels, offering a semblance of privacy without complete isolation. Someone had put fresh flowers on the table, a gesture that seemed absurdly out of place in an establishment that usually served truck drivers and insomniacs. The door opened. The security man entered first, his eyes sweeping the space with professional efficiency before he stepped aside. And then Patrick Sullivan walked into the diner. Time seemed to slow and crystallize, the way it does in nightmares when you're running, but your legs won't work properly. He wore a charcoal suit that I knew cost more than everything in this diner combined. His dark hair swept back from his face, revealing the strong jawline I'd once traced with my fingers in the dark. His presence filled the small space, making the air feel thinner, harder to breathe. He hadn't seen me yet. His attention was on his phone, his profile illuminated by the screen's glow. In that moment, he looked exactly as he had 4 months ago. Powerful, controlled, devastating. Then he looked up. Our eyes met across the 15 feet separating us, and I watched recognition dawn in his expression. Shock, yes, but something else too. Something that looked almost like relief, which made no sense at all. Catherine. My name in his voice was like hearing a song I'd tried to forget. Irish accent softening the syllables the way it always had, turning my ordinary name into something that sounded almost musical. Margaret glanced between us, confusion evident. "You two know each other?" I couldn't speak. My voice had abandoned me somewhere between seeing his car and watching him walk through the door. All I could do was stand there in my cheap polyester uniform, my hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. My hands empty of the tray I'd apparently set down without realizing. Patrick's gaze traveled over me, taking in every detail. I saw the moment his eyes registered the changes, the weight I'd lost from stress, the shadows beneath my eyes, the way my uniform hung slightly looser than it should, despite the secret I carried. "We need to talk," he said quietly, and it wasn't a request. The security man positioned himself near the door, not blocking it, exactly, but making it clear that leaving wouldn't be simple. Margaret looked at me expectantly, waiting for some explanation that would make sense of why her newest waitress apparently knew the VIP guest. I found my voice, though it came out smaller than I'd intended. "I'll get you some coffee." "Catherine." "Coffee," I repeated, more firmly this time. "And a menu. That's what you're here for, isn't it? Dinner?" Something flickered in his expression. Frustration, perhaps, or amusement. With Patrick, it had always been hard to tell. He'd built his empire on being unreadable, on keeping his emotions locked behind that handsome face until he chose to reveal them. "Yes," he said finally. "Dinner. For now." The last 2 words hung in the air between us like a threat or a promise. I wasn't sure which would be worse. I escaped to the kitchen on trembling legs, my hands gripping the counter's edge until my knuckles went white. The familiar chaos of the diner's back area, the sizzle of the grill, the shouted orders, the clatter of dishes, felt suddenly surreal, like I was watching it all happen from underwater. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Jessica said, appearing beside me with her jacket already on. You sure you're okay to stay? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Through the service window, I could see Patrick settling into the booth, his security man taking a position near the entrance to the private section. Even seated, Patrick commanded the space with the kind of presence that made people instinctively defer to him. "Who is he?" Jessica asked, following my gaze. "Margaret's been freaking out all day about this reservation. Apparently he called personally, asked specifically for our diner." She laughed. "Can you imagine? This place?" My blood turned cold. He'd asked specifically, which meant he'd known. Known where I worked, known I'd be here. The illusion that I'd successfully disappeared shattered like dropped glass. "Just another customer," I managed. "You should go get your daughter." After Jessica left, I had no choice but to return to the private section. I carried a coffee pot and a menu, armor against whatever conversation Patrick wanted to have. Margaret had retreated to her office, probably calling the diner's owner to brag about landing such a high-profile customer. Patrick was reading something on his tablet when I approached, but he set it aside immediately. The security man, I remembered his name now, James, gave me a slight nod before stepping back to give us a semblance of privacy. "Coffee," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. I poured without waiting for confirmation, the dark liquid streaming into the heavy ceramic mug we used for regular customers. Nothing special. Nothing that acknowledged what we'd been to each other. "How did you find me?" The question escaped before I could stop it. Patrick's fingers wrapped around the mug, and I noticed he still wore the same watch, platinum, understated, worth more than most people made in a year. "Did you really think I wouldn't look for you, Catherine?" I stepped back, putting professional distance between us. "I left a note. I thought I was clear. I know what you are. Don't look for me." He quoted my words back to me. 4 sentences, 4 months ago. "And you thought that would be the end of it?" My hand moved to my stomach before I could stop it, a betraying gesture that his eyes tracked with laser focus. I dropped my hand immediately, but the damage was done. "How long have you known I work here?" I asked, changing the subject. 3 weeks. He took a sip of coffee, his expression giving nothing away. "I've had someone watching the place since then, making sure you were safe." The casual admission sent ice through my veins. "Watching me? You've had someone—" I cut myself off, aware that my voice was rising. "You had no right." "I had every right." His voice remained calm, controlled. "You disappeared in the middle of the night, Catherine. No warning, no explanation beyond a cryptic note. You took one bag of clothes and left everything else behind. Because I didn't want anything from you. Except 4 months ago, you wanted everything from me." His eyes held mine. "Or were you pretending the entire time?" The accusation stung because it wasn't entirely unfair. I had wanted him, wanted the life he'd offered, until I'd understood the price tag attached to all that luxury. "I wasn't pretending," I said quietly. "I just didn't know who you really were." "And now you do?" He set down the coffee mug. "Tell me, Catherine, what exactly do you think you know about me?" I glanced toward James, who was studiously examining his phone, pretending not to listen. "Enough to know I couldn't stay. Try me." Patrick leaned back against the vinyl booth, his posture deceptively relaxed. "Tell me what you discovered that was so terrible it made you run." The memory flooded back, finding the documents in his office, the ones I wasn't supposed to see. Names, numbers, transactions that made it clear his construction company was just the legitimate face of something much darker. The phone call I'd overheard, his voice cold and final. "Handle it. Permanently." "You're not just a businessman," I said. "The properties, the developments, they're all fronts. You control half the city through fear and..." "And?" he prompted when I hesitated. "Violence." The word came out as barely a whisper. Patrick was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer, almost gentle. Did I ever hurt you, Catherine? No. Threaten you? No, but... Did you want for anything while you were with me? Were you ever in danger? I shook my head, hating where this was going. Then what changed? He leaned forward. You discovered I'm not a saint, that I operate in worlds you find distasteful. But my feelings for you were real, are real. Stop. I stepped back, needing space. You can't just... This isn't about feelings, Patrick. It's about who you are, what you do. What I do, he said carefully, is protect what's mine, build what's mine. And you, Catherine, are mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, it sent a different kind of shiver down my spine, one I had no business feeling. I'm not yours, I said. Not anymore. I walked away. And I let you go. His eyes held mine. For 4 months I let you play at this new life. Waited to see if you'd come back on your own. This isn't a game. No, it's not. He stood, and suddenly the small space felt even smaller. Which is why we need to talk. Really talk. Not here. Not like this. There's nothing to talk about. Isn't there? His gaze dropped meaningfully to my stomach. Nothing at all? My breath caught. He couldn't know. I'd been so careful, the uniform so loose. But Patrick had always been observant, had always seen things others missed. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, but the lie sounded hollow even to my own ears. Catherine. He said my name like a prayer and a warning. I've been watching you for 3 weeks. I've seen you press your hand to your stomach when you think no one's looking. Seen you avoid coffee, turn pale at certain smells. I've seen the way you move now, careful and protective. Panic clawed at my throat. Even if... It doesn't change anything. It changes everything. He moved closer, stopping just short of touching me. That's my child you're carrying. My heir. And you thought you could keep that from me? The word heir sent a chill through me. Not baby or child, heir. A reminder of exactly what Patrick was, what kind of world he inhabited. I was protecting... her? He asked softly. Or him. Do you even know yet? I didn't answer. Couldn't. The walls felt like they were closing in. Come home with me tonight, Patrick said. We'll talk properly. Figure this out. No, then I'll wait. He returned to the booth, settling in as if he had all the time in the world. James, cancel my evening appointments. I'll be staying here for a while. Margaret chose that moment to appear, her face flushed with excitement. Mr. Sullivan, is everything satisfactory? Can I get you anything else? Another coffee, he said pleasantly. And I'll take a look at that menu now. I think I'll be here for quite some time. His eyes never left mine as he said it, and I understood with sinking certainty that running from Patrick Sullivan had only ever been a temporary escape. Now, he'd found me, and he wasn't letting go. Patrick stayed until closing. 3 hours of sitting in that booth, ordering coffee and food he barely touched, his presence filling the diner like smoke. I couldn't avoid him. Margaret kept sending me back to check on our special guest. But I kept our interactions brief, professional, giving him nothing. At 11, when we finally locked the doors, he was waiting by his car. Let me drive you home, he said. I take the bus. Not anymore. He nodded to James, who opened the back door of the town car. It's late, Catherine. This neighborhood isn't safe. I've been managing fine for 4 months. Yes, I've seen where you live. His voice was quiet, but something in his tone made me look at him sharply. 3rd floor walk-up on Brennan Street. Broken security door, unreliable heat. Neighbors who play music until 3 in the morning. The casual recitation of details about my life made my skin crawl. You had no right. I had every right. He stepped closer. You're carrying my child in a building with no working locks and mold in the bathroom. Don't talk to me about rights. The concern in his voice sounded genuine, which somehow made it worse. I wanted him to be the villain in this story, wanted to hold on to my righteous anger. But Patrick had always been more complicated than that. One conversation, he said. Just talk to me, Catherine. Tell me what you need to feel safe. Safe? I laughed bitterly. You want me to feel safe? Then leave me alone. You know I can't do that. His hand moved as if to touch my face, then dropped. Not now, not with our child involved. Our child. The words settled over me like a weight, because no matter how much I wanted to deny it, he was right. This baby connected us in a way that couldn't be severed by distance or denial. I'm not going home with you, I said finally, but I'll talk, 20 minutes. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. Where? I glanced around the empty street. The park across from the diner, public, well lit. Fine. The small park was little more than a patch of grass with a few benches, but the streetlights were bright, and a police car occasionally drove past on patrol. James followed at a distance, giving us privacy, but staying close enough to intervene if needed. Protecting Patrick, I realized, not me. We sat on opposite ends of a bench, the space between us feeling both too much and not enough. When were you going to tell me? Patrick asked after a long silence. I wasn't. I watched him process that, saw the muscle in his jaw tighten. You were going to raise my child without ever letting me know they existed? Your world isn't safe for a child, Patrick. And this is? He gestured toward my building across the street. You can barely afford to eat, Catherine. I've seen you counting change for the bus, working double shifts while pregnant because you're too stubborn to accept help. It's my choice. It's our child. His voice rose slightly before he caught himself, forcing calm. You don't get to make this decision unilaterally. You made decisions unilaterally, I shot back. You lied about who you were, what you did. You let me fall in love with a fiction. I never lied to you. His eyes held mine. I didn't tell you everything, yes, but I never lied. Semantics. No, truth. He shifted closer. You knew I had money, power, connections. You saw the security, the late-night phone calls, the way people reacted to my name. You chose not to ask questions because you didn't want to know the answers. The accusation stung because there was truth in it. I had avoided looking too closely at the source of his wealth, had been content to enjoy the benefits while remaining willfully ignorant of the cost. That's not fair, I whispered. Isn't it? His voice softened. I fell in love with a woman who saw past all of it, who looked at me and saw just a man. Do you know how rare that is in my world? Don't. I stood, needing distance. Don't make this about love. Why not? He stood too. You think I went to the trouble of finding you just for the baby? Catherine, I could have any woman I wanted, could pay someone to carry my child if that's all I cared about. I looked for you because I can't stop thinking about you. Because I wake up reaching for you and you're not there. The raw honesty in his voice cracked something inside me. I remembered those mornings, waking up in his arms, feeling safe and cherished and whole. Before I knew what the safety cost, what the cherishing required. I loved you too, I said quietly. But love isn't enough. Not when your life is built on things I can't accept. Then tell me what you need. He moved closer, his voice urgent now. Tell me what would make you come back. I can't come back, Patrick. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The baby needs a father. The baby needs to be safe. And you think I wouldn't protect my own child? Anger flashed in his eyes now. You think I'd let anything happen to them? I think your protection comes with strings attached. I think your world has enemies who wouldn't hesitate to use a child as leverage. I think... You think I haven't considered all of that? He caught my hands, his grip firm but not painful. Catherine, the moment I realized you were pregnant, I started making arrangements. Additional security, safe houses, contingency plans for every possible threat. I stared at him. You've known for 3 weeks? I suspected after the first few days of surveillance. Confirmed it when I had my doctor review footage of you at work. He must have seen the horror on my face, because he added quickly, just observation, nothing invasive. But yes, I've known. And I've been preparing. Without consulting me. Because you ran from me. His voice was almost gentle now. Because you made it clear you wanted nothing to do with me. What was I supposed to do, Catherine? Ignore my child's existence because you decided I wasn't worthy of being their father? I pulled my hands free, wrapping my arms around myself. This isn't about worthy, it's about right and wrong. Right and wrong. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. The world isn't that simple. I've done things you'd consider wrong to protect things that were right. I've crossed lines to keep innocent people safe. Does that make me a monster? Or does it make me practical? It makes you dangerous. Yes. He didn't deny it. I am dangerous, but never to you. Never to our child. A police car drove past slowly, the officer giving us a curious look. Patrick raised a hand in casual greeting, and the car continued on. Even the police deferred to him here. That was the kind of power he wielded. Come see the penthouse, he said suddenly. Not to stay, just to see what I've prepared for the baby. You can decide after that. Patrick, please. The word sounded foreign in his mouth, as if he rarely had occasion to use it. Just look, then make your choice. I wanted to say no, wanted to maintain the boundaries I'd worked so hard to establish. But part of me, the part that had loved him, that still remembered what it felt like to be held by him, wanted to see, wanted to know if anything of what we'd had was salvageable. 1 hour, I said, just to see, then you bring me home. His smile was like sunrise. 1 hour, I promise. But as James opened the car door, and I slid into the leather interior that smelled of Patrick's cologne and expensive upholstery, I knew I was making a mistake. Knew that going back to that penthouse, seeing that life again, would make walking away so much harder. I just didn't know yet that walking away would soon become impossible. The penthouse looked exactly as I remembered it, and that somehow made everything worse. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that balanced comfort with elegance, art on the walls that I'd helped him select. Nothing had changed, as if Patrick had been waiting for me to come back and resume the life we'd built together. Except everything had changed. I had changed. The nursery is this way, Patrick said, leading me down the hall I'd walked 100 times before. He opened the door to what had been his home office, and I stopped in the doorway, breath-catching. The room had been completely transformed. Soft gray walls, white furniture with clean lines, a rocking chair by the window, shelves already stocked with books and toys, a mobile hanging over the crib with delicate silver stars that caught the light. I didn't know if you'd prefer blue or pink, he said quietly, so I kept it neutral. But everything can be changed if you want. This is just... He paused. I wanted you to know I was serious about being a father. I moved into the room slowly, running my fingers along the crib's railing. It was beautiful. Everything was beautiful. And that was the problem. When did you do all this? I asked. I started 3 weeks ago, had it finished in 5 days. He leaned against the doorframe, watching me. The construction crew worked around the clock. Of course they had. When Patrick Sullivan wanted something done, it got done. Money, power, connections. He had all the tools necessary to reshape the world to his specifications. "It's lovely," I said, and meant it. "But Patrick, before you say no, there's something else you should see." He held out his hand. "Please." Against my better judgment, I took it. His fingers closed around mine, warm and familiar. And for a moment, I let myself remember how it felt to be connected to him. How safe I'd felt before I'd learned what that safety required. He led me to the master bedroom. Our bedroom, though I couldn't think of it that way anymore. But instead of taking me inside, he gestured to a door I'd never seen before. "I had this installed 2 weeks ago," he said, opening it. It was a panic room. Steel-reinforced walls, independent ventilation system, surveillance monitors showing every angle of the penthouse and the building's exterior. Food, water, medical supplies. A crib, smaller than the one in the nursery, but just as carefully appointed. "If there's ever a threat," Patrick said quietly, "you and the baby come here. There's only 2 access codes, mine and yours. Not even James has them. The door can withstand anything short of explosives, and the police are automatically alerted if it's engaged." I stared at the room, at the evidence of Patrick's preparations. This wasn't just planning. This was paranoia. Or was it? In his world, were these precautions necessary or excessive? "You're trying to scare me," I said. "I'm trying to show you the truth." He moved to stand beside me. "My world is dangerous, Catherine. I won't lie about that. But I also won't let that danger touch you or our child. This room? It's insurance. I hope we never need it. But you think we might? I think it's better to be prepared." He touched my shoulder gently. "Come back to the living room. We need to talk about the practical aspects." Over coffee, decaf for me, at the same table where we'd shared countless meals, Patrick laid out his proposal. "I'm not asking you to marry me," he said, which surprised me. "Not yet. I know trust needs to be rebuilt. But I am asking you to move back in, for the baby's sake, if not for ours. Patrick, hear me out." He set down his cup. "You'll have your own room if you want it, your own space. I won't pressure you for anything you're not ready to give. But you and the baby will be safe here, provided for. You won't have to work at that diner, won't have to count change for the bus. I don't want to be dependent on you." "Then don't be." He pulled out a folder I hadn't noticed before. "I've had my lawyers draw up an agreement. You'll have access to an account in your name, enough to live comfortably, pay for anything you or the baby needs. It's not contingent on our relationship or anything else. It's yours." I opened the folder with shaking hands. The number on the account statement made my vision blur. "This is too much. It's what my child's mother deserves." His voice was firm. "Catherine, I'm not trying to buy you, but I am trying to provide for you both. There's a difference." I thought about my apartment, about the mold Margaret had mentioned, about lying awake at night worrying about money, about whether I could afford the vitamins my doctor recommended, about the future, about raising a child alone in a city that didn't care if you sank or swam. "What would you expect from me?" I asked carefully. "Honestly, just to be here, to let me be part of this." He gestured toward my stomach. "Doctor's appointments, preparations, the birth. I want to be there, Catherine. I want to know my child from day one. And after the baby is born, we figure it out together." He reached across the table but didn't touch me. "I'm not going to pretend I don't want more. I want you back, want us to be a family. But I understand that might not happen. I can accept that, as long as I'm not shut out of my child's life." It sounded reasonable. Too reasonable. With Patrick, there was always something beneath the surface, some strategy I wasn't seeing. "What about your business?" I asked. the parts of it I couldn't accept. That doesn't change. He met my eyes steadily. I won't lie to you, Catherine. I am who I am. But I can keep that separate from you and the baby. You won't be involved. Won't even have to know about it. Willful ignorance. Protective distance, he corrected. There are parts of my life that are necessary, but unpleasant. I don't need you to approve of them. I just need you to trust that I'll keep them away from our child. A sound from the hallway made us both turn. James appeared in the doorway. Boss, we have a situation. Brennan Street. Patrick's expression hardened. What kind of situation? Fire. Catherine's building. The room tilted. What? No casualties, James said quickly. But the third floor is gutted. Fire department's calling it suspicious. Patrick stood, his hand on my shoulder steadying me as I processed the information. My apartment. Everything I owned. Gone. Coincidence? I asked, though I already knew the answer. No. Patrick's voice was cold, controlled fury. James, get me everything. Surveillance footage, fire marshal's report, witness statements. I want to know who did this and why. Already on it, boss. After James left, I realized I was shaking. Patrick guided me to the couch, sitting beside me, his presence solid and anchoring. This wasn't you? I had to ask. No. His eyes held mine. I swear to you, Catherine, I had nothing to do with this. Then who? I don't know yet, but I'll find out. He pulled out his phone, making a rapid series of calls, his voice clipped and authoritative as he mobilized resources to investigate. I sat there, listening to him work, and realized that whoever had burned my apartment had just made my decision for me. I had nowhere else to go. No clothes beyond what I was wearing, no belongings, no safe place to lay my head. Patrick finished his calls and turned back to me. Stay here tonight, just tonight. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. I nodded, too exhausted to argue, and as he showed me to the guest room, not our old room, respecting my need for space, I understood that this was how it would happen. Not through grand gestures or passionate declarations, but through circumstances and practicality. Through the slow erosion of my resistance until staying seemed easier than leaving. Thank you, I whispered as he handed me one of his shirts to sleep in. You don't have to thank me. His fingers brushed my cheek. Just rest. You're safe here. And as I lay in the guest bed that night, Patrick's scent surrounding me, I realized that safety was beginning to feel like a trap I'd walked into willingly. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. Decaf, I realized, as memory flooded back. The penthouse. The fire. Patrick's careful maneuvering that had landed me exactly where he wanted me. A knock at the guest room door. Come in, I called, pulling the sheet higher. Patrick entered carrying a tray, fruit, toast, juice. He'd changed from last night's suit into casual clothes that somehow looked just as expensive. Dark jeans, a gray sweater that highlighted his eyes. Breakfast, he said, setting the tray on the bedside table. I didn't know what you'd want, so I had the kitchen prepare options. The kitchen. Right, because Patrick had staff. A reality I'd temporarily forgotten in the chaos of the previous night. Thank you. I sat up, acutely aware that I was wearing his shirt and nothing else. Any news about the fire? His expression darkened. James is handling it. We should have answers soon. He paused. I've also had someone collect what could be salvaged from your apartment. It's not much, I'm afraid. I didn't have much to begin with. No. His eyes held mine. You left everything behind when you ran from me. The comment hung between us, accusation and observation tangled together. I picked up the orange juice, needing something to do with my hands. Catherine. He sat on the edge of the bed, close but not touching. We need to talk about what happens next. I know. I set down the juice. I can't go back to the apartment. Even if the building is repaired, it's not safe. No, it's not. He hesitated. I've been thinking about what you said last night, about not wanting to be dependent on me, and I have a proposal. I waited, wary. My charitable foundation needs a director. The current one is retiring. He pulled out his phone, showing me details. It's a real position, Catherine. Real work, real salary. You have the background for it. Your degree in social work, your experience before we met. Before I'd been swept up in Patrick Sullivan's world and lost myself in the process. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you independence. He set the phone aside. Yes, it's my foundation, but it's legitimate, completely separate from my other businesses. You'd be helping people, making actual change, and you'd have your own income, your own purpose beyond just being here. It was clever, giving me exactly what I'd said I wanted, independence, meaningful work, while keeping me firmly in his orbit. But I couldn't deny the appeal. I'd missed working, missed feeling useful. What about the baby? I asked. We'll figure it out. Maternity leave, flexible hours, on-site childcare if you want it. His hand moved toward my stomach, then stopped, asking permission. I nodded, and his palm settled over the small bump, warm and gentle. I felt them move yesterday, I said quietly. Just little flutters. Something in his expression cracked open. Really? The doctor says it'll get stronger over the next few weeks. I want to be there. His voice was rough. At the appointments, when they move. All of it. Patrick, I know you need space. I know you're not ready to trust me completely. But this? He pressed gently against my stomach. This is mine too. Our child. Please don't shut me out of this. The raw emotion in his voice undid something in me. Whatever else Patrick was, whatever darkness lived in his world, his love for our baby was real. I could see it in his eyes, feel it in the careful way he touched me. Okay, I whispered. You can come to the appointments. His smile was brilliant, transforming his face. For a moment, he looked young, unburdened by whatever weight he usually carried. A sharp knock interrupted the moment. James appeared in the doorway, his expression grim. Boss, we need to talk. Now. Patrick's demeanor shifted instantly, the vulnerable father disappearing behind the mask of the crime lord. Give me a minute. After he left, I ate breakfast mechanically, my mind racing. The fire hadn't been an accident. That much was clear. But who would target me? I was nobody, had been nobody since leaving Patrick's world. Unless someone had noticed Patrick's interest in me, someone who saw me as leverage. The thought sent ice through my veins. 20 minutes later, Patrick returned. His face was carefully blank, which meant the news was bad. Tell me, I said. He sat in the chair across from the bed, maintaining distance. The fire was deliberately set. Professional job, accelerant used, security cameras disabled beforehand. Who? We're not sure yet. But Catherine, there's more. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Someone's been asking questions about you, at the diner, your old apartment building, places you've been. What kind of questions? About your connection to me. When it started, how serious it was, whether you're still in contact. His eyes held mine. Someone knows you're important to me, and that makes you a target. The words settled over me like a shroud. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Your world, your enemies. I know. His voice was tight. I know, and I'm sorry. But Catherine, you need to understand something. Whether you're here with me or living in that apartment, you're a target now. The only difference is whether you're protected or vulnerable. You're saying I don't have a choice. I'm saying the choice changed the moment someone decided to make you leverage against me. He stood, pacing. At least here, I can keep you safe. I have systems in place, people I trust. Out there? He gestured toward the windows. You're exposed. I wanted to argue, wanted to find the flaw in his logic, but I couldn't. He was right. Whoever had set that fire had done it for a reason, and that reason was Patrick. How long? I asked. How long do I have to hide here? Until I find out who's behind this and eliminate the threat. Eliminate. The word carried weight, implied violence I didn't want to think about. Don't tell me, I said quickly. Whatever you have to do, I don't want to know. Something flashed in his eyes. Willful ignorance? Survival. I met his gaze. You want me to stay here? To trust you to keep us safe? Then keep the dark parts of your world away from me. I don't need to know how you solve problems, Patrick. I just need to know they're solved. He studied me for a long moment. I can do that. And the foundation job? That offer still stands? Of course. Then yes, I'll take it. I'll stay here, work for the foundation, let you be part of the baby's life. I paused. But I need boundaries, Patrick. Clear ones. My space, my choices, your own room, he finished. I understand. Whatever you need to feel comfortable. It wasn't what I wanted. What I wanted was my old life back. Before Patrick. Before complicated feelings and dangerous entanglements. But that life was gone. Burned to ash in a suspicious fire. This was my reality now. A gilded cage, yes, but one with soft blankets and prenatal vitamins, and a man who looked at me like I was worth protecting. Okay, I said finally. We'll try this. Your way. Patrick crossed to me, taking my hand. You won't regret it. But as his thumb traced circles on my wrist, I wondered if I already did. 3 weeks passed in a strange domestic rhythm. I started at the foundation, diving into work with a relief that surprised me. The job was real, not a manufactured position to keep me occupied. We funded shelters, education programs, medical care for families who couldn't afford it. Ironic, perhaps, that Patrick's legitimate money did genuine good while his illegitimate business operated in shadows I deliberately avoided examining. He kept his promise about space. I stayed in the guest room. He didn't push for more than I offered, but slowly, inevitably, the walls between us began to erode. It started with small things. Breakfast together before work. His hand on the small of my back as we walked to the car. The way he'd appear at the foundation unannounced, always with some excuse about business nearby, but really just checking on me. I told myself I was tolerating his presence for the baby's sake. That the flutter in my chest when he smiled had nothing to do with old feelings resurfacing. But I was lying, and we both knew it. The baby became real to him during a routine ultrasound. 20 weeks, the technician had said. And would we like to know the sex? I looked at Patrick. His eyes were fixed on the screen, on the tiny form moving and shifting inside me. Yes, he said, his voice rough. Please. It's a girl. I watched him process the information, watched his expression transform. Joy, fear, determination, all of it playing across his face in the dimmed examination room. A daughter, he whispered, and I saw tears in his eyes. Patrick Sullivan, who controlled an empire through fear and strategy, undone by grainy black and white images of his unborn child. That night, he appeared at my door with shopping bags. I couldn't help myself, he said, almost sheepish. I saw them and... Inside were tiny dresses, soft blankets, a stuffed rabbit with ridiculously long ears, all in shades of cream and soft pink and sage green. Patrick, this is too much. It's not enough. He sat beside me on the bed, one dress draped over his large hands. Nothing I could buy would be enough for her, for either of you. The moment hung between us, waited with everything unspoken. Then the baby kicked, hard enough that I gasped. "Can I?" He gestured toward my stomach. I guided his hand to where I'd felt the movement. We sat there in silence, waiting. And then it came again. A strong kick right against his palm. "She's strong," he said, wonder in his voice. "Like her father." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Patrick's eyes met mine, and I saw heat there, longing barely restrained. "Catherine?" A knock at the door shattered the moment. James, his face grim. "Boss, we have a problem." Patrick's transformation was instant. He stood, all business. "What kind of problem?" "They found him, Marco Chen. He's here in the city." I didn't know who Marco Chen was, but the way Patrick's jaw tightened told me everything I needed to know. This was the man behind the fire, behind the threat that had imprisoned me here. "Where?" Patrick's voice was cold, controlled fury. "Downtown, the old Brennan warehouse district. Assemble the team. I want him contained within the hour." After James left, Patrick turned back to me. I stood, suddenly afraid in a way I hadn't been since that first night. "You're going after him." "Yes. Patrick. He tried to burn you alive, Catherine." His voice was deadly calm. "He targeted you, our child, as a way to get to me. This ends tonight." "What if something happens to you?" The question hung between us. What if Patrick didn't come back? What if our daughter grew up knowing her father only through stories of his violence? He crossed to me, cupping my face in his hands. "Nothing will happen, I promise." "You can't promise that." "I can." He kissed my forehead, gentle and final. "Stay here, lock the door. If anything feels wrong, you go to the panic room. Understand?" I nodded, unable to form words. He was at the door when I called out. "Patrick?" He turned. "Come back," I whispered. "Please, for her, for—" I stopped, but the words hung in the air anyway. "For me." His smile was soft, sad. Always. The hours after he left were the longest of my life. I tried to sleep, to read, to distract myself. Nothing worked. I kept seeing that expression on his face, determination mixed with something that looked almost like goodbye. At 3 a.m, I heard the elevator. I was out of bed and in the living room before I could think, my heart hammering. Patrick emerged, and I gasped. Blood on his shirt, a cut above his eyebrow, his knuckles bruised and swollen. "You're hurt." "It's not my blood." He caught me as I swayed. "Catherine, breathe. I'm fine. It's over." "Marco Chen? Won't be a problem anymore." I didn't ask what that meant. Didn't want to know. Instead, I pulled him toward the bathroom, sat him on the edge of the tub, and carefully cleaned the cut on his face. We didn't speak. My hands shook as I worked, and his eyes never left my face. "You were terrified," he said finally. "Of course I was." I pressed gauze to the cut. "You went off to do God knows what, and I thought—" My voice broke. "Catherine." He caught my hand. "Look at me." I met his eyes, seeing my fear reflected back. "I will always come back to you," he said. "Always. Because you and our daughter are everything, the only things that matter. Your business is just business. This?" He placed my hand over his heart. "This is real. You are real." I should have pulled away. Should have maintained the boundaries we'd so carefully constructed. Instead, I leaned forward and kissed him. It was soft at first, tentative, a question. But Patrick answered with certainty, his hands gentle on my face as he deepened the kiss. 4 months of denial, of resistance, of pretending I didn't want this. All of it crumbled. "Catherine," He breathed against my lips. If we do this, I know. I pulled back just enough to see his eyes. I know what it means. You'll stay? Really stay? For her. I placed his hand over our daughter. And for me. Because despite everything, despite the darkness and the danger and all the reasons I should run, I love you, Patrick. I never stopped. His kiss this time was different. Not gentle, but claiming. A promise and a possession all at once. Later, wrapped in his arms in our bed, not the guest room but ours, I listened to his heartbeat and accepted the truth. I had never really escaped. From the moment Patrick Sullivan walked into my life, I was his. The past 4 months had been nothing but an intermission in a story that always had one ending. No more running, he murmured into my hair. No more running, I agreed. Because sometimes love isn't about right and wrong. Sometimes it's about finding your place in someone else's darkness and learning to call it home. Our daughter kicked, and Patrick's hand joined mine, both of us cradling the life we'd created. Whatever came next, whatever challenges or dangers or complications, we would face them together. The cage door was closed, but this time, I'd locked it from the inside, and I was finally at peace. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like and share it with someone special. Every Emma Romance Library story is made thinking of you. Until next time.
I wanna raid banks.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Oh no.
Huh?
I just saw that Badger is also streaming, and he's now on Arma.
Oh no.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
This is so rough. I forgot how laggy it is when it comes to this laptop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we might as well just make a
I wonder if I should actually make a throne goal for a new laptop for travels these days. But I mean, I had the iPad, but for on-the-go streaming and bunch, that's a different story. But anyways, I truly appreciate that you guys came by here today and watched me play more of Traveler's Rest. We'll most likely continue this by the time next week. I'll find time, if you will, and I genuinely hope that when things are back to normal on Mag, we don't get to see disembodied heads like this.
no.
No, I don't want to be a tassel, thank you.
I don't. This is...
And not to mention, you guys are like pretty comfortable over there, and I'm just, just ahead.
But yeah.
More heads too.
I think if anything,
I feel like I can make a joke, but yeah.
I think if anything, this is gonna make me switch gears to something different. But yeah, this is where I best get going here on my end. I thank you all for coming by for today's stream. May y'all have a good night. May y'all eat well and rest well. And I hope to see you guys next time in the paper plane Inn. Take care!
Take care.
Bye.
Good night,
Bye.
everybody.
Goodbye. Just make sure if you see a piece of paper, just let us know immediately. Could be the map.